Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Future World Conversations. Whether you're joining us live or watching the replay, we are so glad you're here. Before we begin, a quick tech check. If you can hear me all right, just drop in yes in the chat and tell us from where you're joining from. It's always so wonderful to see everyone, such global community joining with from diverse places. My name is Padmachana Kandi, and I'll be your host today. For the Future World Alliance is a mission-driven nonprofit helping educators, learners, and builders become future-ready through practical, responsible AI learning. Today's topic is timely. Students are truly first AI native generation, but many learning environments are still built for a pre-AI world. This session is about closing the gap, moving beyond prompting to critical thinking, creativity, and responsible collaboration with AI. I'm excited to welcome Joya, global speaker, AI strategist, and TEDx Speak presenter, and the director of marketing at Intera IT. Joya will share her AI literacy pyramid and framework and actionable tools to help design learning from an agentic AI and shaping the future. Joya, over to you.
Thank you, Padma. Thank you for the invite. It's great to be here. Wishing everyone a happy Friday. Thank you for having me, Padma. I think this is a wonderful speaker series that you and Ross have. So thank you once again. My name is Joya Scarlata. As Padma mentioned, I am the director of marketing for a tech company known as Intera IT. And personally, I've been in the AI space since 2020. So this is before ChatGPT came on the scene and really made generative AI a household conversation. So my, I guess, own journey with AI kind of just stemmed out of curiosity. I was noticing just from my own field that AI was just changing marketing. It was just unfolding before my very eyes. I kind of just had this like wake up moment. I didn't realize that I was personally interacting with AI in ways that I didn't really realize in the past. And that curiosity is just stemmed into learning more, researching more, and writing and speaking more from a leadership and a strategy perspective. So for the purposes of today's presentation, I wanted to share a framework that I believe that every educator should at least look at, consider, need. And I think it's a way to look at AI literacy that really goes beyond just teaching people tool mastery or teaching people here's how to use ChatGPT. And in my eyes, this has never been more urgent. Obviously, we're not just talking about this world of Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude. We're not talking about chatbots. As many of us in this room probably know, we're entering or already in this world of agentic AI. So this is not where AI is just kind of standing in the corner, being passive, or just answering questions on our behalf. It's actually taking action. It's booking flights. It's sending emails. It's making decisions. And in my eyes, if we are only teaching learners how to just prompt, well, then we're possibly preparing them for a world that is slowly starting to disappear. So let me start with a tension that I've observed and maybe many of us are feeling. And that is, this is the reality that I feel like that we're currently living in. So on one side, we have today's learners. And I think it's probably safe to say this is the first of a truly AI native generation. They are growing up, this generation and future generations, they're growing up in a world where they're interacting with AI in ways that we maybe had in the past. AI is making decisions, it's generating ideas, it's creating content, images, videos, and it's collaborating alongside them. So obviously, this is not future talk. This is what's happening in the now. But on the other side, a lot of our classrooms, curricula, training programs, I would say they're still somewhat designed for a pre-AI era. So we're teaching people as if the tools they're going to use in their careers haven't really existed yet. And I think this tension, this gap is widening fast. So think about it. In a couple of years ago, a lot of people haven't really heard about ChatGPT. Obviously today it's everywhere. It's in the classroom, boardroom, living room, and the adoption curve for AI is faster than any technology that we've seen before. It's faster than the internet, it's faster than smartphones. And I would say that education can't really afford to wait another cycle to really figure this world out. So this tension, this gap is what I hope to at least help point to and help, maybe have this conversation where we can hopefully narrow. And this isn't really about whether AI is belonging in education. This is about really preparing learners to really think with AI and not just use it. Now, you may think, okay, Joya, this is all great. This is your opinion. I respect it. But I wanted to show what LinkedIn News has declared as one of their big ideas for 2026. So I'm not sure if you guys follows or have seen this article. So a couple of weeks ago, LinkedIn News released a big piece or a piece on big ideas for 2026. So it lists 25 ideas that they feel is going to really transform this year. And coming in number 2 was that they felt that AI fluency is going to be the new hot liberal arts major. So let that sink in. Probably in the past, when we viewed AI or learning about AI, we viewed it from more of a technical perspective, right? We viewed it as, okay, I need to learn computer science to really, really understand AI. Now we're kind of expanding that. Now people are viewing it as, hey, AI fluency, this is foundational education. And what's really important, if you read the article, it's not talking about learning how to build AI. It is talking about developing the judgment, the discernment to use it wisely. So this means the ability to think critically about AI's role, to be able to spot biases in their outputs, and to know exactly what questions to ask. That is what they're considering, and even what I consider as AI literacy. And I think this is probably where education a little bit is missing right now. And the reality is, if you look at the job market, probably most of job postings, or at least over 50% of job postings, they're mentioning AI. They're mentioning that ability. Hey, we need that AI component. But maybe this is stating the obvious, but it's worth emphasizing that what employers mean is that it's not that they want people to just learn how to use these tools. Oh, it's great that you know how to use Gemini. Everyone can do that now. What they want is that they want people to think critically about AI's outputs. Again, a spot when AI is wrong, integrate AI into strategies seamlessly. And I think that is the real differentiator. Anyone these days can generate an essay, they can create an image, they can create a business plan. So the floor has risen. The basic output that we all can do, that's just table stakes. And I would say the new competitive advantage isn't access to AI tools anymore, it's judgment. So with all of this in mind, where exactly are we getting stuck? So again, this is my observation, but this is what I'm seeing across the board. And this is not coming from a place of judgment or anything. It's just an observation. So I think a lot of learners, they are using AI to get answers, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they're not using it to really think better. So they might be using a tool to prompt, they copy, they submit. And that thinking step typically gets a little bit skipped. Educators, understandably, they are typically focused on detection, restriction, and maybe asking the question, well, how do I catch AI generated work? Instead of also asking, how do I develop AI literate thinkers? And institutions, understandably, they are maybe writing policies that are just banning rather than maybe addressing, looking at building capability. So everyone is somewhat stopping at the same question, which is, well, how do I use this tool? When I think the next or the real question in the near future is, how do I go about thinking with this tool? Now, before I kind of go forward and talk about this AI literacy pyramid, I am curious about something. So feel free to put it in the chat. So quick poll for everyone. When you personally hear the phrase AI literacy, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? So just drop one word in the chat. Don't overthink it. It's just your first instinct. It could be tools. It could be tool mastery, anything. I just curious to see what people are thinking about when AI literacy comes in mind. I'll just give it a couple of seconds. Prompting, fair enough. Skills, need for easy courses to learn, awareness of the ecosystem. These are great answers. Give it a few more. All right, so I mean, we have, kind of a variety of answers, which is great. And I think this is important because it really does show us the assumptions that we're all bringing to this conversation. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. Some of us, we think that AI literacy is prompting or tool mastery. Some said skills or thinking, and that's kind of closer to where I want to think it. Thinking partner, that's great. So let me, I guess, show a framework that really goes beyond the prompting and the tools. So I wanted to talk about it's nothing revolutionary, but this is, I think, a clear way to think about AI literacy. So kind of viewing it as a pyramid. So this is just a practical framework designed to really help any learner at any age, any background, in any context. So to really progress from this basic awareness all the way to strategic reasoning when it comes to AI. So again, it's not really addressing how to use a tool better. It's really more focused on the thinking. So let me show you what this kind of looks like in practice. So this is a pyramid. It's five levels, and I'm going to go through each level a little bit more in depth. So from bottom to top, level one, it's the foundation. That's the awareness. So it's saying, hey, we know, or I know that AI exists. I understand what it is. This is the foundation. Level two, we're going to prompting. I can use AI tools, or I know how to use AI tools to get outputs. And I think this is where most learners are kind of at. And I think, I mean, at least in my opinion, this is unfortunately where most education kind of stops at. This is where it stops there. But beyond that, if you go to level three, that is critical interpretation. So this is meaning me saying, or someone saying, hey, I know I can evaluate AI outputs for accuracy, for bias, and for limitations. And I feel like this is where the true thinking or real thinking starts. Level four is creative collaboration. So I can co-create with AI in ways that doesn't replace my thinking, but can amplify my thinking. And then level five at the very tippy top of the pyramid is strategic reasoning. So this is, I know when, why, and whether to use AI. And in my mind, this is leadership. So the learners who will thrive in this AI first or AI native world aren't really going to be the ones who know how to prompt better. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying prompting is a skill not worth having, but it's really going beyond that. The ones who will thrive are the ones who can really think critically, the ones who can thrive at levels three, four, and five. So think about it this way. Every competitor will have access or has access to the same AI tools. And so this is not a moat anymore. The real differentiator, again, is that judgment, the discernment, really knowing how to evaluate, create, and strategically deploy AI. And this is really, I think, kind of the meat of what we really need to teach or focus on. So as mentioned before, I just wanted to walk through each level in a little bit more detail. So again, level one, as I mentioned before, is the awareness. I know that AI exists and I know what it is and what it isn't. So from a learner's perspective, this might be, hey, my phone uses AI. I thought that was just autocorrect. Now, at this level, I know it sounds basic, but obviously learners can distinguish that, hey, AI goes beyond, there's a difference between AI and traditional software. They obviously understand that AI can learns from patterns in data. It's not, magic, it's math. And critically, they start to recognize AI in their daily lives. That was me 5 years ago, right? So they understand that it's coming in their Netflix recommendations, the autocomplete, this is what you also might like suggestions. And why this matters so much is that if learners don't have a fundamental understanding of what AI is, well, possibly they're going to either fear it irrationally or they're going to trust it blindly. It's so important to understand the nuances of this world. And I think when it comes to this, just kind of really forming this foundation, I think here's some activities that you can steal from me. One is just having an AI audit. Have learners track every single AI interaction for, say, 12 hours, 24 hours. And I think you'll be shocked. They perhaps might say, you know what, I interacted with AI, say, 20 times today, and may not have realized it. It might have come in the form of using maps or music recommendations, spam filters, the face unlock. Obviously, it's everywhere. Um, Another activity is, whether this is AI or not. So showing an output, um, anything. It could be an image, it could be an AI generated commercial, a song, and have them guess, is this human created or AI generated? But go beyond that and have them discuss, well, how can you tell that this is AI generated? What cues did you use? And this helps build that intuition. The other one is maybe the how does it know question. So pick any, I don't know, AI that they use. Maybe it's the TikTok algorithm and have them reverse engineer it. So maybe ask these questions, what data is it using? What patterns is this algorithm finding? And this kind of demystifies, it makes AI a little bit more grounded. So again, the goal of this level is simple, that awareness without anxiety, that AI exists, it's in almost everything that we interact with, but we have a better understanding, or at least a fundamental understanding of how it works. Obviously, a lot of learners they move quickly from this awareness to the next level. And I think this is where it gets a little tricky. So as I said before, level 2 is prompting. So again, I can use AI tools to get outputs. So from a learner perspective, this means that, hey, I know that I can ask whatever, ChatGPT, something, and it'll give me an answer. It's like Google, but better. Or I can get a piece of content in 30 seconds. So obviously learners at this level, they can write prompts and they know that they can get results. They can use AI obviously for anything, for brainstorming, for summaries, and they know how to navigate different tools. But the problem in my mind is this is really where education kind of stops. It's a little bit stuck right here. So we are able to teach people how to get answers from AI, sure, but we don't really go beyond that. I think we tend to not neglect, but we don't really teach them how to evaluate those answers. We don't necessarily teach them how to think well with AI. And I think why this is so dangerous in this day and age is that, I mean, it goes without saying we're living in a moment where AI generated tools or content is everywhere, and it's getting increasingly harder to tell what's real with deepfake, with voice cloning. And a recent study showed that AI generated misinformation is getting more persuasive than human written misinformation. And I think that if we're sending learners into this world without really those critical evaluation skills, then I would say we're kind of failing them. So let me kind of walk through two scenarios that happen. So one scenario is, imagine you have a student, he or she submits an essay on, say, the history of journalism. It's well written, it seemingly cites, legitimate academic sources, and because of that, this student gets a B plus. However, one problem is that one of these sources doesn't exist. The AI hallucinated a source, complete with the author's name, the publisher, the page numbers. This source never existed, but the student didn't bother to check. Why would they? It looked legitimate, it looked right. Another scenario is a job applicant uses AI to write their cover letter. So the AI, trying to be impressive, claims that this applicant has extensive experience in maybe this particular area, say in data analytics. But the reality is the applicant doesn't. And the applicant just submits it blindly without thoroughly checking it. Now they're in an interview and maybe they're being asked questions that they can't really answer. The trap is that learners are quick to evaluate or just use outputs without really learning how to judge them. They're getting faster at producing content, but not necessarily getting better at understanding whether that content is any good, true, or useful. So I think one litmus test is asking your learners if they can tell what is wrong with an AI output. Not exactly what's right, but what's wrong. And if they're struggling with this, then they're stuck at level 2. So some of the activities that can maybe help flesh this out is, one is, I would say, the confidence trap. Give the learners maybe a well-written AI paragraph with a couple of subtle errors and see who can catch them. Many perhaps won't, but walk them through. If the ones are able to catch the errors, ask them, how were they able to, kind of help them think out loud. Another is a citation check. Have them take any AI output that cite sources and actually help them verify them. Does this article actually exist? Does this quote exist? And you'll be amazed how, that some of these sources are just completely fabricated. So I guess the question is, how do we move them? If a lot of us are stuck on this particular level, how do we help learners move beyond prompting? And I think this is where it gets good. So again, beyond the prompting, level 3 is the critical interpretation. Again, this is the level where learners start to think, not just use. So from a learner's perspective, they may say, hey, you know what, this output looks right, but let me check it before I trust it blindly. Or, you know what, this AI gave me an answer, but I'm noticing that it's missing the other side of the argument. So at this level, the critical interpretation, learners are asking, you know what, is this actually true? How would I go about verifying this? What perspectives might be missing? What biases might be baked into this output? And where does AI consistently get things wrong? Now, I think this is such an important skill for this year and going forward, because as I mentioned before, we're drowning in AI generated content, social media, news, emails. A growing percentage of content out there is AI written. And I mean, we obviously, I mean, I think we've all heard of that term AI slop. There's this sense of almost sameness. There's, almost we're losing that unique perspective, that unique voice. And I think the people who can really tell the difference, who can really spot the gaps, the errors, who can really evaluate a content before they just trust it, is that's probably going to be a superpower, because everyone else, they're just consuming it. We're really without thinking critically. And here's the thing. I think a little bit what's scary is that AI is getting better probably by the day at sounding convincing. The errors that, maybe were more obvious are getting more subtle. Maybe a couple months ago, the AI hallucinations were obvious. Now they are buried in otherwise accurate content. And so this critical interpretation isn't getting easier, but it's actually getting harder. But that is why it's so much important, so much more important to build this. So again, some activities that can help, build this muscle is, again, I mentioned this before, give your learners maybe an completely AI generated content with a couple of subtle factual errors buried in it. And their job is to help find them and prove that these are wrong with sources. And so this starts teaching your learners verification as a habit. Or another interesting one is doing a perspective audit. So take any AI output on, say, a complex topic and ask, well, you know what, whose voice is this output centered around? What is it missing? What assumptions is this output making? AI typically defaults to the dominant perspective, and learners need to be able to recognize and to see that. And another one I would say is like the red team. So give your learners a polished AI essay, making them find flaws in the assignment. So it's not just, blindly accepting this essay for what it is, but having them critique it. So this flips their understanding, this mindset shift from being a consumer to an evaluator. So again, at this level, the key, I think, question is, from what did AI say to should I trust everything that AI says? And that's everything. So actually, with let's try this exercise if it's possible. If you have, it just takes 60 seconds. And if you have access to any AI tool, let's just do one of these activities together. So if you have access to ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever, on your laptop or on your phone, ask it this question. What are the top three challenges in education right now? You'll get an output. Now, I want everyone to find maybe one thing that you're not happy with this answer. Maybe this output is factually questionable. Maybe you feel it's too generic. Maybe it's missing context, or it's biased towards a particular perspective. But I'll give you just maybe, a minute. And I just want to see what are you finding that you're not happy with the answer. When I did this last night, I personally felt like the answer was too generic. It was just, I didn't know what perspective it was coming from. So if anyone has time, I would love to hear, what you're finding rather. I'll give it a couple of seconds. All right, so You got, yeah, education systems are lagging, interesting, behind AI reality, outdated assessment of learning, education or equity gaps. So Padma, what do you, I mean, what is your critique of this output? Do you find it too generic?
Yeah. Raj, you have your hand
Yeah,
up. You want to talk? I can go next.
Yes, I'm on my phone, so it's hard to copy paste.
no
But
worries, no worries.
I use ChatGPT. The three it came up with are actually pretty good, I think. Access and equity, digital divide reimagined was number one. Educator readiness and confidence, number two, which is kind of the point of this conversation. And then ethics, trust, and meaningful use, just beyond how it works. So I felt all three of those were pretty good.
Okay, okay. Padma, do you, I mean, any, I guess, happy with the answers, or do you feel it's too generic? Or I guess, how would you, I guess, go beyond this?
Yeah, I'll go. I see Jane.
Yeah,
Jane's hand up. Let's give them the chance.
sure, Jane.
Thanks, Padma.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for me, it's too generic because my top three will be AI disruption, teachers shortages, and student mental health crisis. So, but the good thing about it on my end is that it was able to have a comparison, like a table on what's happening and what matters. But for me, because I always ask for tables, and that's why
Right.
I think my chat GPT already put it on a table for me, and it tracks my activity. So that's why, oh, I always want to like comparison, and that's why it compared me. But yeah, the challenges that I have is AI disruption, teacher shortages, and student mental health crisis, which I feel also a little bit generic.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think the whole thank you for sharing that, Jane and Ross. And I mean, well, we'll keep the chat going and whatnot. Oh, Nazra, I think you have your hand raised. Did you want to go?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I have, I think my response is kind of biased because
Interesting.
I'm working, yeah, in education, and also I'm working for a tool for teachers. So my answers are, first one is meaningful use of AI, not just access. And the second one is student engagement and relevance, because I'm, making some white coding apps for to increase student engagement.
Right.
Maybe it has picked up on that. I think so. And the third one is teacher workload and burnout.
I
That's
see.
also related to my, work. So I'm
Right.
constantly checking this. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I think Lori, she wrote, I also use ChatGPT. It was similar to Ross's, but also different enough to be worth calling out that the same prompt resulted in differences. Yes, and I think most of us had, different answers, probably based on our history or, training data and whatnot. So the whole point of this exercise is not to say they're right or wrong answers. It's just to help us think, not to necessarily accept the output blindly, but, to start, just helping us think critically that, hey, maybe this is missing this perspective. Maybe it's a little bit biased towards this. And just, again, using AI as more of a collaborator, again, not just blindly take whatever it spits out as, the 100% truth. And I think when learners at this stage can learn how to evaluate AI critically, then I feel like they're ready for something more powerful, which is level 4, and that is creative collaboration. So this is telling ourselves, hey, I can co-create with AI in ways that not replace my thinking, but can amplify my thinking. So from a learner's perspective, this means, hey, I wrote my first draft, then I asked AI to challenge my argument. And it's found, based on that, if it found 3 weaknesses that I hadn't considered. Or I used AI to explore the problem from 5 different perspectives before I sounded writing. And I think this is a tremendous mindset shift, because a lot of learners, again, there's nothing wrong. They typically approach AI as an answer machine. Hey, AI, write this for me, do this for me. What is this? And at level 4, you're going beyond that. You are approaching it as a thinking partner. So here's the difference, I would say, in practice. Level 2 prompt might be, chat, write me a blog post about climate change. A level 4 prompt is going to obviously go beyond that. Here is my draft argument about climate policy. What is the strongest counter argument that I have not addressed? What are the logical gaps? So the difference I would say between level 2 prompt and a level 4 prompt is level 2 just automatically outsources the thinking. Just do this. Hey, whatever, do this for me. And level 4 is using AI to sharpen the thinking. Why does this matter, especially in this year and beyond, is that, again, this might be stating the obvious, but this is my observation, especially working with different organizations. AI, it goes without saying, amplifies the gap between the people who can think well with AI and those who cannot. So if you have creative ideas, if you think beyond the box AI and you know how to use AI well, it can help make that idea that much more powerful. It can help you say iterate faster. It can help you explore different perspectives. It can stress test your thinking. But if you are not at that point yet, well, then AI will, again, probably produce that AI slob. It's going to give you that generic content that sounds like everyone else's generic content. And I personally believe that the people who are thriving with AI right now, again, aren't necessarily the best prompters, but they're the best thinkers who happen to use AI as its collaborator, as a tool. And that, I think, is what we really need to develop. So I know these are some activities, again, take them as you will, but these are just helping to build that muscle. So one can be an iteration log. So you can maybe require your learners to submit, I know it sounds silly, their AI conversations along with their final output. And then the whole purpose of this exercise is you want to help them see, well, how do they push back, if any, with AI? Where do they disagree? Where do they make the change? And it helps make that thinking just more visible instead of making it just on autopilot. Another exercise maybe to consider is the devil's advocate. Have learners write a position, then explicitly prompt AI to argue against them. So their job is to take these counter arguments seriously and help use this to strengthen their original position. Another one is maybe this is what I call the perspective carousel. So you have one topic, maybe 3 or 5 different stakeholder perspectives. So it's possible a CEO may see something different from an intern, or a customer may see something different from a regulator, but have AI explore this one topic from different positions. Now, the whole point of output at level 4 is to have the learner's fingerprints on it, that their thinking is still very much in the work and not outsourced just automatically to the work. And at the very, very, again, tippy top of this pyramid is the strategic reasoning. So this is where I know when, I know why, and I know whether to use AI to solve real problems. So from a learner's perspective, this is, hey, I acknowledge that AI can do this faster, but given the stakes, I think a human should make this call. Or, you know what, before we automate this workflow, what happens or who is responsible if something goes wrong? So learners at this level don't know just how to use AI. They also know and recognize when not to. So they consider, again, what happens if AI goes wrong? Who is most affected by this decision? And is this efficiency worth the trade-off? Now, why I believe, again, along with level 3, 4, and 5, why this is a skill that is so important. Remember what I said at the beginning. We are in this world of agentic AI. So what does that mean? We are having AI, they're making decisions on our behalf. AI agents are able to book travel. They're managing calendars, they're responding to emails. In this world, the question is, can AI do this? The question is, should it do this? What happens when it makes a mistake? Who is responsible? Now let's consider 3 scenarios that are probably happening right now. And this is not to scare anyone, but this is just to make it aware why this is so important. So let's consider a scenario from a hiring perspective. Maybe a company is using AI to screen job applicants. It's faster, it's cheaper, they feel it's more efficient and it's consistent. But the problem is that this AI was trained on historical training data, probably maybe from a time when the company was a little less diverse. Now what's happening is it's systematically downranking certain candidates. Who's responsible for this? Who is responsible to catch this? Who is responsible to maybe make the necessary corrections? Another scenario is education. Perhaps you have a school that uses AI to grade essays. It's consistent, it's fast, and it's rewarding maybe formulaic writing, but it's penalizing those who are maybe it's unconventional brilliance. Maybe it's penalizing the student who's really, really thinking outside the box. So if you do have a student who is just kind of out there and it's brilliant, maybe the AI is giving them a grade that they don't deserve. And the question is this efficiency really worth flattening creativity? And another scenario to consider is, say, maybe from healthcare. A hospital is using AI to, say, prioritize ER patients. And so it's helping optimize for efficiency. But what AI may miss is, hey, what about that quiet elderly patient that is having a heart attack? We don't know it because he's stoic in pain. He's quiet. He's not really giving outward symptoms. And this algorithm is learning that the more vocal the patient is, maybe that is more of an urgency. So these are not necessarily hypotheticals. These are happening. And the reason why I'm pointing out these scenarios is that it shows that we really need people more than ever at this level who can identify potential problems before it can cause harm. So some activities that can help, again, build this level 5 muscle is one is the consequence map. So for any AI use case, really map out, well, what happens if something goes wrong? What happens if you implement a chatbot? Just as simple as that. What happens if it gives wrong answers? Who is responsible for this? What happens? Who's affected? And what are the steps that we can do to fix it? What is the worst case scenario too? Another is the human check. So present a scenario and debate. Well, should AI really be making this decision or should it be a human? There's no right or wrong answer, but the value is in the reasoning. So just really talking it out. And another one is, I would call it the just because we can debate. So obviously, as we know, AI can do a lot of things, but the real question is should it? Have your learners argue both sides of a controversial AI application, maybe even looking at the healthcare one, and ask them, should AI be solely responsible for diagnosing or triaging patients? And another exercise that I think is worth doing, if not, if you guys haven't done it, is, say, a stakeholder mapping exercise. So for any, say, AI implementation, go ahead and identify every single stakeholder, from the user to the employees to the customer to even the communities. Ask yourself who wins, who might lose, who has the most to lose. And I think the learners who can think at level 5 won't just use AI, they're going to be able to shape how AI is used, from an ethical standpoint. They'll be the ones who are able to say, wait, well, have we really thought about X, Y, and Z before anything goes wrong? And I think this is leadership. And and it's okay. I personally feel like, we're not all there at this. We all haven't figured it out yet, which is fine. But if we have this conversation, that means that your learners can already be ahead of the curve. So practically speaking, with all this said and done, if you're considering this framework, how can you start using it tomorrow or just even on Monday? So I'll just quickly kind of go through this just with the interest of time. So here are some actions that I say that you can, start as early as tomorrow or even this afternoon. So if you're trying to help move learners from level 1 to 2, I would say just introduce. If learners at the awareness stage, that's great. Bring AI into an environment that in guided ways. Use it together openly. Show them what AI can do and what AI can't do. Let them interact with it, including acknowledging when to push back on certain outputs. So a simple first step might be, hey, live demo, ask AI a question in your domain, show them the output, then critique it together, and ask yourselves, well, what did it get right? Maybe what did it miss, and what would an expert notice? From level 2 to level 3, this is where you assign the AI critiques. This is, I would say, the big unlock. So stop asking, well, did you use AI? I think that's maybe not the right question to ask, but ask, what is wrong with this AI output, if any? So again, an assignment is, generate an AI response to a common question in your field, give it to different learners and their job. Again, like what we did, ask them, is this too generic? What are some missing perspectives? What are maybe some things that should be verified before blindly trusting it? The whole point of the exercise is to make evaluation the top priority and not just blind generation. Level 3 to level 4, that is where you insert the why. When learners use AI, require them to, or ask them to show their work, not just the output, but the whole process. How do they prompt it? What Did they change? Where do they disagree with AI? The whole point of this exercise is to help them develop critical thinking and judgment. So again, one way to do it, I know it sounds silly, is maybe have a AI collaboration reflection. Ask them, okay, you generated an essay with AI. What did you ask AI to do? What did you change from what AI gave you, and why? Again, that critical thinking. From level 4 to 5 this is where you start posing those ethical questions, start considering ethical dilemmas. Give learners actual scenarios where AI could be used, but maybe shouldn't be used, or shouldn't be used completely. Make them argue both sides, make them consider stakeholders, make them sit in that discomfort of, you know what, it's complicated, but don't give them the answers. Give them these questions. Well, should AI 100% decide which applicant should get a loan and should not? Should AI write news articles? Should AI be the one making the medical diagnosis? Let them think it through and think from both sides. Again, the goal of this is to develop that AI discernment, the AI judgment. And I think in my mind, the beautiful thing is you don't need to just, oh, darn it, I have this curriculum, I need to just do it from scratch. You don't need to do that. Or I need to develop a new training program for my employees from scratch. You don't need permission from anyone. All you need to do is just start small. You can just add maybe one critique assignment, one reflection requirement to what you're already doing. And I think that is so important, obviously, with anything when it comes to AI adoption. You don't want to start big. You want to start small, build that muscle. Now, I want to hear from everyone. Again, there's no right answers. There's no judgment. But when you consider the learners that you perhaps work with, whether they're students, their employees, or clients, whoever you're trying to develop, where are they, in your opinion, on the pyramid? So drop a number on the chat. 1 is for awareness, 2 is for prompting, so on and so forth. And again, there's absolutely no judgment here. I would say maybe a lot of, some people that I work with are kind of stuck between 2 and 3. So I'll put that between 2 and 3. 2, okay. All right, Tina's at level 2. 2. All right. So I'll let the chat keep going, but I mean, this is what I've expected, and this is not to say this is a failure. It's absolutely an opportunity, and it's now the question, I guess, is to be asked. Well, how do we move these learners to the next level? How do we move them to 3, at 2 and 4? Thank you, Jane. And so again, this is just a starting point. This is, again, how do we just move them, gently nudge them up this framework? And I just want to, with that in mind, I want to leave you with some key takeaways. One is that, probably stating the obvious, but it is worth emphasizing. AI literacy is a spectrum. It's not a checkbox. Obviously, when I asked before, what do you feel AI literacy meant? We had different answers. None of them were wrong. But, and I also emphasize that, when it comes to training, it is not a one and done thing. It has to be continuous. So you want to meet learners where they are, if a lot of them are at level 2, and help them climb, help them challenge them, help them think critically. A lot of education, whether education or training, they typically stop at level 2, which is maybe, how do you use this tool really well, or how do I prompt really well? But again, the real opportunity goes beyond that. It goes in level 3, 4, and 5. The goal, in my mind, when it comes to AI literacy, is not just tool mastery, it's judgment. As we know, tools will change. There's going to be a new version of a tool probably dropping tomorrow. There's always new tools just entering the market, feels like every day. So they will change. But the ability to think critically, to collaborate creatively, and to reason strategically, that is going to endure, and that is going to be your superpower. And 4 is, you can start as early as this afternoon, tomorrow, just one activity, one discussion, and that will help you move up this pyramid. So again, your goal is to prepare learners to think with AI, not just use it. Then that's the mission. So before we go, or before we go to the questions, if you have time, if this is of interest to you, I would love, maybe see what you can commit to one thing. Type in the chat if you want. Maybe it's as simple as, what, this week I'm going to critique one AI output, or I'm going to ask my learners to find something wrong with this particular output, or I'm going to pose an ethical dilemma. But if you're willing, just type in the chat, one thing that you're going to do or help your learners maybe move up that pyramid. But so yeah, so whatever you have, feel free to put it in the chat. But with all of that in mind, I wanted to thank everyone so much for being here. Thank you for engaging with me, giving your inputs. I'm really passionate about AI literacy because I feel that we have a real opportunity and a responsibility to really prepare learners in this AI first world, not just to survive in this environment, but to help lead with it. So I would love to connect with all of you. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me under Joya Scarlata. I also write a Substack, Signals and Strategy, and I also co-host a podcast, The Marketer's Guide to the AI Galaxy. But thank you so, so much. And Padma, I mean, if we have questions, I'm open to it. I just wanted to be respectful for everyone's time.
Yes, feel free to unmute yourself and then give your reflections, or if you have any questions, please go ahead.
Hi, Joy. This is Matthew, and thanks for all that you've shared over here. I'm kind of along in a similar path around educating on AI literacy. So I was kind of curious about your organization and the mission of your organization, and how can I get involved, and how can I support your initiative, because that's something I do believe strongly in.
So, no, thank you for your question. I guess the AI work is a little bit separate from my my corporate job, but I do feel like it's worth having in terms of how people can help. I think it's worth having these conversations, in general. Like, how do we acknowledge that, hey, how do we just kind of move education or training programs forward? I personally see too in my organization, it's not a criticism, that I think that certain employees are stuck at a certain level. I think, I sometimes see that maybe my team members, they view, okay, I'm using AI, I've mastered it. And I see, because of that, I'm in a company that is in the B2B space. So obviously, relationship with our customers, they're built on trust. They're built on that brand, right? So that's why it makes it even that more important that if we have any AI generated content that is factually not correct, that goes our brand, kind of our trustworthiness and things like that. So for me, from a company perspective, I think it's, my responsibility and others to kind of teach employees, no matter what level of comfort they're at, hey, let's start thinking critically, let's start questioning some of these outputs and whatnot. So yeah, so I think just for everyone, I think it's important just to have this conversation just going forward. Maybe it's interesting to see what exercises that we're using for our learners and whatnot. Again, it doesn't matter what age, what skill set, but the reality is we're interacting more and more with AI, so we got to start somewhere. So yeah. Any other questions? And again, if you have any questions, feel free to message me after. I'm here. I think Lori has something.
I want to share one personal reflection.
Yeah.
During my business school journey, I remember we had an assignment where we had to challenge AI outputs, not just accept it on a face value. So this really resonates with what you have mentioned during the session. Goal is to think with AI, not use it. So similarly, it was on the same lines. The exercise was to challenge it, was to put the hard questions on the output that it generated. And that exercise actually stayed with me because it reinforced something that's more important than blindly following it. It's like thinking critically whenever an output is generated, to start thinking why, ask the proper why questions, the hard questions, so that AI can also not only generate the outputs the way you want, but also make the learners think and ask questions. Is it the right answers that we are having from the outputs that it has generated? So this resonates with me, with what I have learned, what I actually follow, and then it's practical for everyone in this today's era.
Oh yeah, Lori said Padma was saying it better than I could. I was going to say something similar. No, I think it's great that you had that exercise, and it kind of it still amazes me at times that no matter how advanced ChatGPT is or Claude, it still hallucinates. I mean, I still have it just make up quotes, and you just have to challenge it. Well, what's the source of that? Well, sorry, no, I just assumed blah blah blah. So yeah. I think that's why it's thinking critically is definitely a skill to have. But
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Joya. This was really clear, thoughtful, and even practical session for everyone who has attended today. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat or connect with Joya directly on the LinkedIn. If you found today's conversation valuable, feel free to share it within your network. We'll be uploading the link onto our YouTube channel once the recording is ready. And we'll be back next Friday with another future conversation to have interesting nuggets shared by our speakers. So stay tuned, subscribe to our Luma calendar. I'll be sharing it on our LinkedIn page. Have a great Friday. See you guys next week, same time, same day. Until then.
Thank you.